Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today we are taking a look at Vechain and specifically the price action of VET. As we get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you won't miss another update. Right, let's get into this technical analysis here for Vechain. We're going to kick things off with this weekly chart, guys, where we always like to start and say everything really kicked off with this bull run back in March of 2020. This is basically when crypto had crashed down along with the stock market and obviously the pandemic. From here, this actually kind of started the 5 impulse waves to the upside. The first one kind of peaking out at around August, and I think a lot of people in the space can remember what was going on with Vechain back then, in terms of basically setting all-time high after all-time high. We then went into the very first correction wave. This is wave 2. This actually bottomed out towards the end of the year, around November, and then that really kick-started our third wave. This is where a lot of people in the space who came into Vechain, started to talk about it, and started to think about the potential of this project. Obviously, this kind of peaked out top of wave 3 here in April. Okay, so basically from March to April, 399 days, Vechain here had gained 18,295%, a very significant gain, and we haven't stopped either. Since this third wave, we have gone down into this fourth wave correction. Again, this took a lot of people by surprise, specifically if they were buying at the top of wave 3, for example. And they were being led into some kind of crazy kind of price prediction for Vechain. Ultimately, there was corrections coming back to the downside. Loads of people calling it a bear market. It was just a fourth wave correction, and loads of people selling. And obviously, certain people were buying the fear, right? And this here was the accumulation zone. This is a nice area to be buying up Vechain. We wicked into here only a handful of times. So if you're patient enough to be buying Vechain at the bottom here, you're getting a pretty good deal ahead of our fifth wave. We've started to have a pretty good run so far. And we've had this kind of correction in the middle, which is kind of needed. I guess nothing moves up in straight lines. You can take a look at our third wave. There are many corrections on the way to the upside. Okay, so as we go up this fifth wave, we are expecting to see there to be kind of corrections on that journey before we go all the way to the top there. Now, this is about another 600% on the current position to where we are heading. So again, that's looking pretty tidy. And again, we are looking to peak out at about $1.01. It's going to be in that kind of range. We might just wick above it. We might wick just below it. But it's going to be around the 4.236 of the extension on the the 4.236 of the Fibonacci retracement tool. So overall, yeah, everything's looking pretty good there. Now, the stochastic RSI, when we were at the bottom of wave 1, was oversold. The bottom of wave 2, oversold. And of course, the bottom of wave 4, oversold. Likewise, as we go up into our kind of big waves here, we obviously start seeing this thing rise all the way up into the overbought area. This actually happened halfway through wave 1, and we were up into the overbought area for quite some time. Likewise, we take a look at where we got into our overbought area with wave 3. It happened much earlier, just at around about down here. We actually were overbought, and then we rode this thing all the way up. And during this third wave, we actually had a couple of corrections in the middle that continued the growth to the upside. The main one is this one in the middle here, where we really were testing out our support at 3.4 cent, and before actually going up and peaking up at the high point here, which came in at 27.9 cent. Then obviously the bear, this bear market, if you will, this fourth wave correction did see us come all the way back down, and now we are back in the overbought area where we are here. So again, we can be sustained up in this overbought area on this weekly chart for quite some time, as we go up to that fifth wave peak, right, about $1. So on this weekly chart, lots going on. Always important that we zoom out and we take stock of the bigger picture and where things are heading. What we don't want to do is get too focused in on the smaller time frames, where actually they might look more bearish on the shorter time frame, but actually the bigger time frame does show us in a very bullish state, as does this 5 impulse wave to the upside. Right, with that being said, let's jump down into our daily, and here we can take a look at what's been going on most recently. We'll just make this a little bit bigger so we can expand our chart here. So we can see that we have got an overbought now on our daily, and again, we'll take a look at where we were during this first little leg here. This is overbought for quite some time, quite a few days, from the 23rd of July through to the 15th of August. Okay, so almost a month of being overbought. And we are just up in the overbought area now after a correction or kind of sideways trade in this little area just here, this little tiny correction. This has basically now brought us down here. We're back up into the overbought area on our stochastic. So now we can enjoy potentially going up after this yellow box area here, which is the 618-702-786 area of the Fibonacci, key areas for us. Getting a closed candle here above 21.5% is going to be a big bull signal. The main one that we're looking for, though, is 23.1. Getting the closed candle above that 23.1 just up here is going to be absolutely vital for us. Okay, so we're watching out for that on this journey to the upside. Now, in terms of where we have found support on the 382. This is 13.9 cent, and we have been working quite hard to get some pretty decent traction going. So currently, at the point of recording this video, VeChain is now at 14.5, and despite what people say, it has been doing a fair amount. We take a look at it where it was down here in the 21st of July. If I grab hold of my price range from the 23rd of July, we can see that it had gone up an additional 172%. So again, for the rest of the bull run, talking about 600%, I'm not saying 600% instantly. I'm not saying 600% in 24 hours or 48 hours or this week. But we are looking for an additional 600% by the end of the bull run. So we have moved 172% since the end of July. So again, we're tracking pretty nicely here for VeChain, good recovery. And if we can able to get into this 786 area here, this kind of 23.1 cent area, then we're going to be tracking some new all-time highs shortly. The first target for VeChain would come in at 42 cent, then 64 cent, 87, and then $1. Okay, but obviously to get there, we have to battle through some of these key areas of resistance and turn them into support. So lots of work still to do, but we are seeing some pretty good traction now. When we jump down into our hourly view, okay, this is where we start to see some of these trends that had been forming. So the most notable was this triangular wedge and this break to the upside from that triangular wedge that we started forming. This was too steep, so we have to remove that now. And what we're looking for now is to see what's going on. Are there some more interesting trends appearing here? Anything notable? Well, that's pretty interesting. Let me just get that lined up a little bit better. I think it's going to be about there. Let me just pull that in. There we go. So we can see that from here, this is a lower end, testing this trend, actually got quite a few touch points on here. So we do have an upward trend appeared there. Now, the downward trend, that's not very strong. I think we'll need to see if this actually forms into some kind of triangular wedge like this, or whether or not, in fact, we actually push this up to our resistance line here. And what you end up with is this triangular wedge. If we constantly get this resistance, then we could see a break to the upside there. Okay, now on this hourly chart, we are tracking quite nicely on the stochastic. Plenty of room still to grow before we start to see that momentum get taken out and a slight pullback on that. But overall, everything here is looking pretty good. We've got a good trend line to the upside here. We've got the resistance being found at 15.2 cent. And again, we are looking to basically hopefully continue this trend to the upside whilst we find that resistance. That would be a nice catalyst for another explosion like we saw over here. And this will allow us then to take the next step and get into the 618 area of the Fibonacci retracement tool, which would be then when most of the work starts to happen here for VeChain. So the charts are looking pretty good, but what about the artificial intelligence and machine learning over at 𝗖𝗢? Well, we have an A2 rating here from the advice.io dashboard, and VeChain's Fear and Greed Index is showing as an A1, which basically means it's extremely greedy. Now, this is usually when traders are taking profits when it's extremely greedy, and normally they're buying the fear. So when you start seeing extreme fear, this is where people are buying, at least the people in the know. Of course, there is some fear that you do not buy. When you go straight away into a bear market, you don't necessarily want to be buying that kind of fear. But there are some strategies that we'll get into once the bear market actually gets here on how to make some money on the way down, like you did on the way up. But with a Fear and Greed Index at the moment for VeChain, it's an A1 rating, so you have to be cautious that some people will be taking profits. So we will expect a little bit of volatility, a little bit of sideways trading as we trade some key areas and lower that Fear and Greed Index a little bit over time. Again, being in this, extremely greedy scenario. You can see that we were up here previously and a fair bit of profit was taken before pulling back down. We're up here again. We can be up here for a bit longer. We don't have to go straight away to the downside. We can be extremely greedy for a while, but it's one of those things you want to keep in your mind that this is usually where people take profits. The AMI-HAD ratio, so liquidity, is not an issue either. An A2 rating there for Vechain, so looking pretty good and pretty tidy. Again, got a little bit of a spike recently at the end there, so again, not too bad. And the Sharpe ratio, so again, risk to reward ratio, basically we're above the 50-day average. A2 rating, no problems to report there either, looking pretty good, and we're getting some good traction on that, so looking as a pretty good solid kind of hold at the moment. And if we take a look at the moving averages, yep, again, A2, profitability A1, the best that they can be. And again, when you talk about moving 18,295%, it's really hard not to have an A1 profitability. So overall, yeah, everything's looking pretty good here. For Vechain from the artificial intelligence machine learning perspective, A2 rating, in line with our charts, are showing everything looking pretty tidy and pretty good in terms of everything that's going on there. So my expectations, guys, will be trading sideways a bit longer, hopefully get this tighter into this triangular wedge. By the 7th of September, we'll know one way or another. We'll either have invalidated our upward trend, or we would have had an explosion to the upside and we would have past our resistance line. But guys, if we are ever in doubt, we make sure we zoom out, we take a look at that bigger picture, because this is where the real kind of vision comes to play. You can get a little bit lost inside those smaller time frames, but here we have a good traction heading towards $1, and everything is lining up quite nicely here for Vechain. Definitely hasn't been a slow one, despite what people are saying. Yes, it's no Dogecoin, and that's a good thing. 18,295%. There's very few cryptocurrencies that have been performing just that well. There's a couple that I've seen that we are invested in that have like 42,000 or 30 something thousand, but then you'll see Harmony's 18,000, Vechain's 18,000, just to name a couple. So yeah, definitely doing well. Guys, if you have found this brief update on Vechain useful and informative, then hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will not miss another Vechain update. With that said, done and out of the way, I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.